today, if you look at Nana, she was probably one of the best chef I've ever met in my entire life.
Well, we still eat her pastries.
And we still do that.
Yeah.
But the great thing about her was there was never a recipe.
A strong woman. Really.
She improvised and did everything, and everything that came out really good. So I was really interested in
So
food.
that was back when you were young,
Yes,
back
yes,
in
yes.
back in the mother country.
Yeah.
That your passion for that and watching your mom and getting under the hood, so to speak, with the recipes back then. Was when you really got introduced and got excited about that.
Oh yeah, I got really excited. Growing up with with 5 brothers and 2 sisters, my dad was fishing, so it's sitting at the table at the right time having, food. Food was the only thing we had. We couldn't speak English, so food is what we look forward to. At night and lunchtime, and and then the happy moments when we're watching TV, she would, do all the Zeppelis, which you guys call Zeppelis, and all that stuff. So
those all came from the New York Italians when they migrated over. It's funny how they bastardized the language and it kind of stuck. And in the restaurants back east, you see those names and stuff and. Like the Strombolis and
well, they had different like I said, they improvised because some of the ingredients were not here. So they improvised with other materials, I should say, or other foods.
So you go back to Palermo, you study. How long were you there before you came back?
I was there about 6 months. Then I came back and then finished high school, San Diego High, and then didn't know what I wanted to do. And my brother Frank, who was in the fishing industry at that time, he graduated. He said, "Do you want to go out fishing?" And I did. So I went as a crew member, and every morning I was out there with helping out the chef. The next trip, which 3 months later, we did our first trip, got home, and the captain of the boat came down and said, "Listen, you're going to be the chef on the boat." I thought, oh, shit.
How many people were in the crew then?
22.
Wow.
And we brought 1,200 ton of fish with a helicopter on board and 22 members. And we buy $80,000 worth of fuel. We were talking back in 1970 something, So we had $80,000 worth of fuel, about $40,000 worth of food, and we.
How long would you guys go out?
Until we fill up the boat, and so that would be either 2 months, 3 months, or a month. And
so that was really your first real experience as becoming a chef and cooking for people.
Yeah, here's a 20. I was the youngest chef out there. Most of the fishermen were either Italian or Portuguese.
Portuguese, yeah.
So these are older people that their wives know how to cook. So here comes.
So what was the first meal you made for the crew as the young?
What
were you, 22?
I was 21 years old.
Wow.
And I went out and we had to wrap the lettuce in newspaper so it would hold the longer, and you would run out of lettuce, and then you would have to use cabbage to use it for lettuce. So it was kind of interesting because I had the background of working at Hobnob Hill, so I knew the breakfast end of it, but and calling my mom at that time, it was I think San Diego Marine or some sort of call. It was like $10 a minute. And I would call my mom and say, "What do you do to that red sauce?" "You put a little bit of this." "I can't see. What's the little bit?" So I took a lot of books with me, and on my free time, I just read up on a lot of things, and that's how we did it.
What was the first meal?
The first meal. Let's see here. Dave, I don't remember, but it had to be Italian. I know, and,
Well, of
and
course. Were they happy?
Extremely happy.
That's the most important.
I could never make a straight cake for somebody's birthday,
Especially on
especially
a
on a
rolling
boat. And I'd have to cut it.
That's
and,
where
and
the
build
upside down pound cake came
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I don't remember, but I used the tuna eggs. I used to use those for happy hours, fry them and do the cocktail sauce. Popcorn for them, and
Did you guys
of course,
use some of the fresh fish?
the bellies.
Yeah,
Because
that's
the
best.
the
Bellies
best. So
and the
we
cheeks.
used to do the cheeks, the belly. We did all that, but most of it was
The food you bought.
the beef.
Yeah.
We had also fish, shrimps, and stuff like that we brought out. But it was a learning experience. I did that for 4.5 years, and I made a lot of money. In those days, like I said, I was making about $60,000 a year.
Wow.
So that was a lot of money. But
I
I didn't have time to get home and then actually 2 weeks and way out you're gone. So you don't have time to spend your money.
So that was good. So that was some of your startup.
It
money.
was it was hard on relationships.
Of course, yeah. I was in the
You're out
Navy,
there
I
with
know.
22 people out
Yeah.
there, and they're all married or some, want to jump off the ship or something like that. But it is what it was. It was pretty healthy, and we just chuck along.
Now, when you got back, you said you did it for about 4.5 years, right? So you had a boatload of money. What was the first restaurant? I know there was the Busalacchi Fish Company. Who opened that? You?
I did. I did.
That was your first one, right?
No, I opened up Casanova's Pizza.
That's right. It was on Midway.
No,
No?
it was in Grossmont Shopping Center.
Grossmont.
Yeah. So actually, if you remember, Chicago Brothers had that place there in Grossmont, and they weren't doing well. So I bought their facility, and then I opened up Casanova's Pizza. Extremely successful. We were doing about $70,000 a month then,
Wow.
which I
So
took
that was
over
your-
the whole hospital, because I
So
gave
that was
them-
your first one?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
the first one.
That's great.
And we did deliveries, and then the shopping center decided, hey, would you like to have another space? And then we opened Busalacchi Fish Company on the same.
Oh, okay.
And then I had someone from Chicago buy me out on.
So what
the two restaurants.
what was the fish company? Was that a restaurant or was it?
It was kind of
wholesale?
seafood fast, with a window, and you would order a calamari, a steak
Oh, okay,
sandwich.
yeah.
So
it was a restaurant. It wasn't like buying fish and.
No.
Okay.
We weren't selling whole,
Right.
fish
Okay.
or raw fish.
It was in the food court.
It was a kind of the food
Okay,
court. So
yeah.
you come in and you literally get, crab salad or.
That was Joe's Long John Silver.
Yeah, John Silver is right.
They got the idea from him.
Okay, great. That's great. So now you sell those,
Yep.
and then what happened?
I found a place in Hillcrest, the name of the place was La Maison, which was a French restaurant where Busalacchi originally. It was an old house.
Yeah, the one on Fifth. Yeah, with
And,
the upstairs.
correct. And then
was
I went in
haunted.
there and I said, I'll take a run on that. Sold that, bought that. I think I paid $30,000
For that.
to get the guy out. And
But you bought the house, the restaurant, and everything.
well, I bought the whole back later on, but she would never sell it to me. At that time, I was paying $1,200 a month in rent. So
that was the original first Italian restaurant.
that was the original Sicilian style,
Joe's
authentic
Joe's flavored
flavors.
restaurant.
Right. And I took recipes that were forgotten and moved them into the new style with a little flair, basically. So
It's funny because Sicilian flavor is your passion.
I love them.
the San Diego Magazine talked about that and about your journey and things. And it's very important to you. But it's funny how that peasant food has now become the penthouse food. And you've added that flair and really brought it to attention in the San Diego community. What do you attribute to that, and how did you market that? Because really nobody knew what Sicilian food was. And for us, the peasant food, the cagouts or the fried calamari or the aglio-olio, there were people who are like, what the hell is this?
One of the things that I learned is now I could compare. I knew what it was like living in America. I knew what it was like living in Italy. I knew what the Americans were like, and I knew what they should be.
So
I combined them
both.
to both.
That's great.
To make sure that
all palates were
correct, and if it was always extra garlic. So I knew that the Americans love that garlic, and I know that in Italy they don't use as much garlic as that. But improvising for the American palate.
And you've been very successful with that. Okay, so now you have Busalacchi's. You bring this infusion of Sicilian food and the American palate together. You're becoming very successful. Big shots from all over are coming in. You start cooking for these big shots. Who were some of the great people that...
we had so many. We were in Hillcrest for about 24 years, surviving there. So we had, from Tommy Lasorda's to the Piazzadora to the English actor Jane Seymour.
It also mentioned that you were summoned to L.A. to cook for Luciano.
Yeah, you know what?
Pavarotti.
Yes, it wasn't actually in L.A. I have a cousin who worked for this radio station who they told me to come up, and he actually, Pavarotti came down to San Diego.
Oh, okay.
And I did some food for them.
Wow, that's
here
great.
Locally. But
what did he say?
He had all the hats and all the scarves and all that stuff. He was mobbed, and basically he just,
He didn't have time. Did he eat?
Yeah, he had something, but he doesn't need to be. He doesn't need to eat. He needs to be on a diet.
Yeah, no.
But no, he loves food.
Obviously.
But we met some great, like all the Dodgers. From the owners to some great people. Even made so many friends through that restaurant.
So how did you transition from Hillcrest, and then really when the idea of really bringing Little Italy back to the forefront of San Diego and San Diego's communities? Because when they put the freeway in, it kind of split it up, and kind of Little Italy got lost in that transition. And then there was this renaissance, if you will, of Little Italy, and you now have several restaurants down there, and you saw that vision of what was occurring. When did you decide, when you were at your first restaurant on Fifth Avenue, that what? I think this is going to be a good move.
I'm going to be honest, because I've always been honest, and of course, I had a lot to do with Little Italy. I did not have, the vision of what it could have been or what it is now. But I know I contribute tremendously, because I was with a good dear friend of mine, Tommy Battaglia, who and I knew, who actually came up to me and said, "Hey, I got a spot. You could give me whatever you want for rent." And at that time, I think it was $800 a month. And he says, "Can you do something about it?" And obviously, I used to walk from my house to go to school there every day, so I kind of knew the area really well. But I used to hear about New York, Little Italy, or areas like that. And at that time, there was just Filippi's, and then Mimo's was next door. That
Right,
was
I
it.
remember
But,
Mimo.
7 o'clock would come.